On August 7, 1972, in the small town of Springfield, New Jersey, the body of a teenage girl was found in strange circumstances. The discovery led many to believe it was a satanic murder, but the investigation raised more questions than it answered. Let's retrace what happened then and what we know 52 years later. Jeannette was an ordinary 16-year-old girl. She came from a Christian family and her friends knew her for her devotion to her faith. The family home was on Clearview Road in a hilly, upper-middle-class Springfield neighborhood. She lived there with her parents and 7 siblings. However, on Monday evening, August 7, 1972, young Jeannette DePalma told her mother she was going to take the train to visit a friend who lived in Summit, New Jersey, a community near Springfield, where she lived, but she never made it to the station. That evening, when she didn't return home, Jeannette's mother immediately became concerned. She contacted her daughter's friend and, realizing that she had never arrived at her destination, imagined the worst. The girl's parents went to the Springfield Police Department and filed a missing persons report, hoping to find her as soon as possible. Hours, days, weeks go by and there is still no trace of Jeannette. The police were going round in circles and no one could figure out what had happened or even come up with a clue. A few weeks later, on September 19, 1972, the disappearance investigation took a completely different turn. In an apartment complex in Springfield, New Jersey, USA, a decomposing human arm appeared. It had been transported there by a stray dog carrying it in its teeth. 6 weeks have passed since the young woman, Jeannette DePalma, disappeared without a trace, and this arm is the first clue to a crime that will traumatize an entire country. Following this discovery, the search intensified along this perimeter, with a search party investigating the surrounding woods, and after 4 hours, the rest of the decomposing body was found. She was at the top of a large rock formation known as the Devil's Teeth. To put things in context, back in the day, people tended to fall easily for stories of satanic sacrifices and witchcraft rituals. Let's just say it was pretty much ingrained in people's mouths, and they were more inclined to believe it than they are today. What's more, Jeannette's death came at the height of the Jesus movement in the US, an evangelical Christian sect whose members called themselves Jesus freaks and claimed to have had supernatural experiences similar to those of the apostles, such as the ability to perform miracles. It was a time of religious turmoil, and the atmosphere around Jeannette's case that she was a victim of Satanist cults was very intense. The body was found at the top of a large rock formation known as the Devil's Teeth, and the fact that it was found in a particular position also reinforced the theories. She was lying face down in what looked like a coffin bounded by stones and tree trunks around her body, inside which improvised wooden crosses were arranged around her body, which gave rise to the idea that a group of satanic worshippers or sorcerers might have been involved, especially at a time when people were super paranoid about Satanism, witchcraft and the occult in general. In the absence of concrete answers, theories proliferated for decades, ranging from satanic ritual sacrifice to a coven of witches practicing black magic. Press headlines and initial police statements also contributed to the Satanist panic that gripped the country. Local and national newspapers carried the headlines "Girl sacrificed in witch ritual" and "Occult symbols said to siren body." Other witnesses claimed that a pentagram had been painted under the body and that there were also the remains of mutilated animals next to it. The police even brought in a witch to check for signs of occultism. Jeannette was identified from a dental record, as her body was badly decomposed according to the report. Her condition was such that it was not possible to carry out an autopsy. However, X-rays of the skull were taken and revealed no evidence of fractures, gunshot wounds, stab wounds or other instruments. no drugs were found in the body. According to the FBI Crime Lab report of January 3, 1973, investigators had Jeannette's clothing as well as soil found at the scene, analyzed against hair taken from her dresser drawer and body, which confirmed that the hair matched Jeannette's. The FBI microscopic and chemical analysis indicated that no apparent foreign hair or other traces of DNA were found on Jeannette's clothing. On the other hand, a large quantity of lead was found in her body, which is highly unusual, as the possible cause of death was established as strangulation. The list of suspects included a homeless man who lived in the woods near where the body was found, known as Red, who allegedly fled the scene after the girl was found dead, but the prosecutor's office ultimately ruled out his involvement. So did the theory of Reverend James Tate, the DePalma family's evangelical pastor, who claimed to have had an epiphany about the minor, indicating that she may have been a drug addict and that her death may have resulted from an overdose. But no link with the facts was ever established. The number of clues leading nowhere eventually put an end to the investigation and the case was dropped. At the time, another theory, promoted by local media such as the Star Ledger and the New York Daily, pointed the finger at a group of witches whose center of operations was on the Watchung Reserve, close to the scene of the crime, and who might have been responsible for the crime. The media also linked the case to the murders perpetrated by John List, a year before Jeannette's case became known. List had shot his wife, mother, and 2 children in the head. When he was captured in 1989, he claimed to have done it to send them to God. But the modus operandi had nothing to do with Jeannette DePalma's case. This large rock formation known as the Devil's Teeth was reputed to be a den where local youngsters came to relax and take drugs. Another surprising fact is the discovery of a large quantity of lead in Jeannette's body, although it is assumed that she died by strangulation. That said, her body was so deteriorated that no trace of injury could be detected to explain her death. At a very high levels, lead can cause severe damage to the brain and central nervous system, leading to coma, convulsions and even death. One possibility is that she had taken a drug containing a high concentration of lead, which could have killed her instantly. Although this is theoretically possible, it is extremely rare. In fact, there is no drug known to contain such a high proportion of lead. Even if it had, it's unlikely that a single ingestion would be instantly fatal. Mortality due to lead is rare, and when it does occur, it usually lasts for several weeks. Lead acts as an insidious poison that takes hold over the long term. One might think that Jeannette was accustomed to frequenting this place and that repeated exposure could have affected her. However, it is likely that she would have alerted her family if she had felt unwell, and she would have not been alone in being affected. It was reported at the time that the body had been found in a place set up as a satanic ritual, with crosses around the corpse, which was laid out in what would have looked like a coffin with contours made from stones and logs. According to some sources, these claims were completely untrue, being nothing more than unfounded rumors. But if they were untrue, why did they circulate in the first place? The police was the first on the scene at the time. So how did these rumors come about? And if they were spread by a local newspaper, why didn't the police do anything at the time to disprove them? What's more, the police didn't carry out a thorough analysis, and the coroner's findings were unsatisfactory. Why then did they claim to have lost the file in the 1999 storm only to make it public several years later? Although the Jeannette case has never been solved, it is far from forgotten. Today, many people have investigated the murder on their own, trying to answer the countless questions that have accumulated half a century after the assassination. Some have been solved, but only to open the door to new questions. Ed Salzano is one of them. The 58 years old, who was just 10 years old at the time of the events, is one of the young woman's most fervent defenders, and is still demanding justice for her case. In 2019, he filed a lawsuit in Union County, New Jersey, to have DNA tests performed on the young woman's clothing, which, according to his own investigation, was never done. Like him, journalists from Weird NG magazine also set out to investigate the case after breaking the story in 2004 in a series of emails that reached their newsroom. Mark Moran, the magazine's editor-in-chief and co-founder, took up the crusade in a personal capacity, writing in numerous stories about the murder with suspicious and previously unpublished details. Together with Jesse P. Pollack, one of the magazine's correspondents, they co-wrote and published the book Death on the Devil's Teeth, the strange murder that shocked suburban New Jersey, released in 2015. One of the book's revelations was the police admission that they had lost or destroyed the file due to flooding caused by Hurricane Floyd in 1999. The book also uncovered evidence of a possible cover-up of the child death, as well as a link between Jeannette's death and other unsolved crimes. The latest chapter in this relentless quest for the truth was written earlier this year, when Weird NJ magazine finally gained access to Jeannette's file, which police said had been lost in 1999. In it, the magazine claims that police reports rule out the involvement of a satanic cult in the young woman's death. The crosses, star, coffin, dead animals, and all the other signs of a satanic sacrifice were not at the scene of the crime, as the photos published by the portal show. Another important discovery is the reference to the victim's handbag, which was allegedly stolen along with the identity papers and money, but whose contents were left scattered around the scene. A bottle containing an unknown substance was also found among Jeannette's belongings. Ultimately, the report solves part of the mystery, that of the alleged acts of Satanism, but it still doesn't shed any light on the real motive behind the young woman's death, and above all, on the authorities' apparent interest in letting the case die and lying about the existence of the file. What happened to her? Who killed her? And how did her body end up on top of the imposing rock formation where she was found half a century after the fact? These are questions that remain unanswered, even if there is no shortage of theories.